Hey everyone, welcome back. We are 55 episodes in, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who listens to the show. I want to give a special thanks to those of you that have left a rating or review in Apple Podcasts. I appreciate all of you listening to the show and sharing it with your friends and family. Remember, be sure to share and like my posts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for a chance to win a LEGO Saturn V later this month. Now, for the show. This is The Space Shot, episode 55 for July 8th, 2017. All good things. Hey everyone, welcome to The Space Shot, your daily space history, pop culture, and news fix. I'm John Molnix.
Okay, so auto sequence start.
Handoff to Atlantis' computers has occurred. Solid rocket booster nozzle steering check and work.
20,
Firing chain is armed.
15,
Go for main engine start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis. On the shoulders of the space shuttle, America will continue the dream.
Roger, roll, Atlantis. Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis. The space shuttle spreads its wings one final time for the start of a sentimental journey into history. 24 seconds into the flight, roll program complete. Atlantis now heads down, wings level on the proper alignment for its 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 4.5 million pounds of hardware and humans taking aim on the International Space Station. 40 seconds into the flight, the three liquid fuel main engines throttling back to 72% of rated performance in the bucket, reducing stress on the shuttle as it goes transonic for the final time.
On this day in 2011, the Space Shuttle Atlantis launched on the last mission of the shuttle program, bringing a close to 30 years of shuttle flights. As with most things in life, all good things must come to an end. While the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs only lasted a short period of time, a lot of younger people, like myself, grew up with the shuttle as part of our daily lives. Project Mercury lasted from 1958 to 1963, the Gemini program lasted from 1965 to 1966, and the Apollo program went from the first uncrewed flight in 1966 to the final moon landing in 1972. After Apollo, there were Skylab missions and the last flight of Apollo-era hardware during the Apollo-Soyuz mission in 1975. The shuttle was part of my life from the time I was born, up through high school and college as well. The shuttles were companions that went into space, bringing back incredible views of our planet and our galaxy to Earth for over 30 years. It's easy to romanticize the missions from the early days of NASA's history, the rapid progress, the giant leaps. They were incredible achievements. The shuttle program wasn't as glamorous as those early missions, nor really should it have been. The years after the Apollo program brought budget cuts to the space program. The political will to continue beating the Soviets in space had evaporated, which left ambitious plans to go beyond the moon in jeopardy. Back in episode 22, I talked about the origin of the space transportation system. As the Apollo program ran down, NASA came up with a plan for President Nixon, which was called the Space Transportation System. This system was proposed as a fleet of different space vehicles designed to take humans everywhere in the solar system from low Earth orbit to other planets. The primary parts of the Space Transportation System were a space station that could hold up to 100 people, a shuttle like the Space Shuttle for cargo and crew missions to low Earth orbit, a space tug that was chemically fueled, which would allow for movement between Earth orbits and to lunar orbit, and finally a nuclear-powered vehicle that would use the Nerva engine to take astronauts and supplies everywhere from Earth to the Moon to other planets. The only part of the space transportation system to survive the political and budgetary pressures during those years after Apollo was the shuttle component, hence the STS notation for all shuttle flights. With the shuttle program ending with this last flight of Atlantis in 2011, the STS program came to an end. STS-135, which was the mission that launched today in 2011, was one of the smaller shuttle missions, with only 4 astronauts on board the shuttle. Astronauts Christopher Ferguson, Douglas Hurley, Sandra Magnus, and Rex Walheim spent 8 days at the International Space Station delivering supplies and equipment. One of the interesting missions carried on Atlantis during this final flight was the robotic refueling mission, which was designed to show the feasibility of on-orbit refueling for satellites that were not originally designed to be refueled. On the day that STS-135 wrapped up its mission, I will have more on this final shuttle flight. Also on this day in 1994, STS-65 was launched from Kennedy Space Center. The shuttle Columbia and a crew of 7 astronauts spent 2 weeks in space, conducting a variety of experiments in the Space Lab module. Life science experiments that were conducted examined the development of embryos in space, with a species of Japanese newts being selected for this research. In the show notes, I'll link to the press briefing for this mission, as well as some of the websites that give greater detail to the experiments that were conducted. Fair warning, these websites might not look that great on a mobile device, such as the nature of web design from the late 1990s and early 2000s. Tomorrow, Starfish Prime. And no, that's not a Transformer. Thank you all for listening to the show. Producing a daily podcast takes a lot of time, and I would love if you could take just a minute to leave a rating or review in Apple Podcasts and let me know what you think. If you're so inclined, you can ask me questions and chat on Instagram and Twitter. Find me at John Molnix pretty much everywhere. Subscribe to the podcast and share it with anyone you know that loves history, space, or pop culture. I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
Eight minutes, 15 seconds into the flight, standing by for main engine cutoff. That'll be followed a few seconds later by the separation of the external fuel tank. Booster officer confirms main engine cutoff. For the last time, the space shuttle's main engines have fallen silent as the shuttle slips into the final chapter of a storied 30-year adventure.